And it's good morning to the Gelding, and Gelding racing back at Caulfield today. And let's just say the weather looks a treat, so hopefully it will be a good 4, as it says when the track was inspected earlier today.
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, listeners. Yes, Group 1 racing returns to Melbourne today with the Memsie Stakes at Caulfield. Just went outside before, Professor, in Caulfield South. A beautiful, clear blue sky. Sunny, looks like it's going to be a fantastic day and should be an excellent day's racing at Caulfield. So let's hope there's no bias in the track and that all horses get an equal opportunity, Professor, and we're assessing our horses today that the track will play fairly.
And Gelding, there was some rather intense racing discussion yesterday when we caught up with Darren from Hampton and David from Morty Alec to have a lunch to celebrate the return of Group 1 racing to Caulfield.
Yes, a very pleasant lunch, Professor. It was very good to I noticed they were keen on the tips with the success rate of the last couple of weeks being 75% win rate, 75% place rate. They were all very keen about that, but and I noticed Darren from Hampton was very keen to get on the TAB account while we were having lunch after obtaining some information. But at the end of the lunch, Professor, I didn't see any gifts coming.
Well, Gelding, I must admit that I was rather surprised that they didn't understand the meaning of B grade and C grade tips.
went over their heads or deliberately went over their heads, Professor?
I did notice that they were scribbling furiously when you were talking about who you thought would win today.
Yeah, there was a lot of mental notes going on, Professor.
There were, and then David from Morty Alec saying, why don't we put the tips up on the website anymore?
Well, the whole, as you rightly pointed out to him, it is to get our followers to listen to our podcasts. That's exactly why we do the podcast.
Exactly.
Otherwise, if we follow David's advice, we wouldn't do the podcast. We'd just put them up.
Well, and that's from a bygone day, Gelding, when we could only do that, that's what we did. But now that there are other means to get the tips out, I'd much rather have the banter that we have to discuss who's going to win and why on YouTube than just put them up on the website.
Exactly, Professor. And yeah, maybe David can have a quick look, but interesting couple of comments I heard from them. They had backed a couple. So as we said, so
yeah, no brown paper bag though, Gelding.
No brown paper bag, but
and no offer to pay for lunch.
I would have been happy if the card and the plastic had picked it up.
All right, Gelding. Well, as you said, Caulfield races today. It's a 10-race program. There are 3 Group 3 races, a Group 1 race, so group racing's definitely back. The first is at 12:05 p.m. The feature race, Group 1 Memsie Stakes for 3-year-old plus horses. It's a weight for age event over 1,400 metres worth $750,000. Now, the Memsie Stakes, a little bit of history, Gelding, originally over a mile when it was first run in 1899, but since 1980 has been run over the 1,400 metres distance, and some great winners, Gelding. So You Think, Weekend Hustler, Mackay Diva, Sunline, Manicato, Galilee, going back into the 50s, Comic Court, even Far Lap has won this race, Gelding, and the first winner in 1899, Venita.
She was a good filly, wasn't she?
I think so.
A chestnut or a bay mare?
Yes.
Yeah, a very good, Professor.
Now, as you know, Gelding, on Sportsfan Radio and That's Racing, we like to delve into why races are named as they are.
Yes.
Well, the Memsie Stakes.
The full name, Professor, the Stowe Storage Memsie Stakes.
Yes, the Stowe Storage Memsie Stakes. But the Memsie Stakes, which is what it was before sponsorship came in, Gelding.
Yes.
John Catto, a horse breeder and owner, came out to Melbourne from Scotland and bought a property near Bridgewater, which is near Bendigo, just for the viewers. And he called that property Memsie. And because he was so involved in horse ownership and breeding and racing, they named the race after his property. So we've now got a horse race named after a property.
Well, it's good to see it's a name that's remained, though, Professor.
Yes, one of the few.
One of the few. Like, they've had plenty of names that they've changed to name after administrators, like fortnight ago, the PB Lawrence. You know, that used to be, I forget what the original name of that was, but that was changed by the MRC to honour a former chairman. But, interesting.
Yes, Gelding. But you know what's more interesting than all of that? Your tips for today. So give us your best two for Caulfield.
Well, Professor, I know a couple of people were taking very strong mental notes as we were discussing the races yesterday. In fact, one of them was on the TAB phone account while we were having lunch. He managed to stop putting a ginger prawn in his mouth to get on his TAB account.
He did like those ginger prawns, Gelding.
Oh, boy, oh boy. Well, Professor, my two tips for today at Caulfield. The first one, of course, race 7, race 7, horse 2, Parasail, a horse that we've been on a fair bit of late, having won 3 of its last 4 starts. We're on it last start when it came back from a sell. And, of course, Parasail, race 7, number 2, is one of my favourite training establishment, the Blue Army Professor, Godolphin. As I've said many times on this show, I like backing their horses because they seem to put them in the appropriate races. Parasail returned from a spell, won well at Randwick on the 19th of August, has 58 today. Jamie Carr hops aboard Parasail for the Blue Army, coming from barrier 11. So should be thereabouts, Professor, as you will also like at Caulfield. Tend to favours leaders or on-track horses. The rail is in the true position. So I think this horse just sitting behind them on the post can then flash down the outside. At the moment, Professor, showing the nice odds of $3.30. So the first tip is race 7, horse 2, Parasail. Dangers, of course, being Benedetta from Jason Warren. But, I just think Parasail might be a bit strong for it over the last 100 metres. My next bet, Professor, is in the main race, the Memsie, is race 9, number 3, Alligator Blood. Good to see Group 1 racing return. I think in this race, Professor, we have 3 probably of the top 10 horses racing in Australia, and Mr. Brightside, I Wish I Win, and Alligator Blood. Look, I tipped Alligator Blood because I think coming around the home turn, this horse will be 2 or 3 lengths ahead of Mr. Brightside or I Wish I Win. With the Gay Waterhouse bot finish, I just think over 1,400, this horse may have the advantage of them up to a mile. And I'd rather be on the horse at $5, which you can get for Alligator Blood, than the $3.30 or the $3 for Mr. Brightside, when you know Alligator Blood is going to be a length or 2 in front of it as they come around the bend, as the way I see the race pattern. All 3 are very good horses. It would not surprise me if any 3 of them won. But at $5, I think Alligator Blood is a very, very good each-way bet, Professor. Tim Clark was down to ride Alligator Blood. And once Tim Clark gets out in front, he sets them at a beautiful pace. Unfortunately, he's been injured and won't be coming down to ride it. And Damien Oliver has now taken them out. So I hope Damien's been studying the way Tim Clark has been riding this horse and setting it up, as a leader, and then just rating the horse out in front so it's got that kick at the last 200 metres. So my two tips, Professor, race 7, number 2, Parasol, and race 9, number 3, Alligator Blood. And you like, Professor?
Yeah, Gelding, I'm going very early in the program. Race 1, the Caulfield Handicap. It's a 3-year-old plus race, benchmark 70 over 1,600 metres. Like in that race, Gelding, the five-year-old Gelding, number 5, Bow Rap, coming out of barrier 2. It's had 9 races for 3 wins and 3 placings, so a 33% win rate, a 67% place rate. It's won its last 3, Gelding, and you know what I like? I like winning form. Its last race was at Sandown over the same distance. It won that. It's won leading, and it's also won from the back of the field, so that allows for whatever the track bias might be playing. Johnny Allen's in the saddle, so I like that. He's one of our favoured jockeys. Yep. He's got a career win rate of 15%, Gelding, but over his last 50, it's up to 22. So he's actually in form. And Ballarat trainer Archie Alexander, he's also in great form. He's got a career win rate of 14%. His win rate's up to 22% as well. So great way to start the day, Gelding. It's showing $5 and $1.90 at the moment. So great return for each way bettors. Number 5, Bow Rap.
Good way to start the day, Professor.
I think so, Gelding. And then let's go to race 2, the Changing Places Handicap. Benchmark 78 over 1,400 metres. The lightly raced 3-year-old Gelding, number 2, Charlton Lane, coming out of barrier 3. Only had 5 starts, Gelding, but the important thing, 3 wins and a placing. So it's only been out of the money once. 60% win rate, 80% place rate. It's won 2 of its last 3 starts at Rose Hill. It's won over the distance. It likes to come from midfield in its races, so not getting back too far and not getting too far to the front. So hopefully the pattern of racing will suit it today. Also great value for each way punters, Gelding. This one's $4.40 and $1.75.
And Professor, I do know the time it didn't win or was placed, it was in 4th position, only beaten 1.7 lengths. So it's been in the money all 5 starts, and not far off having an unbeaten place record, Professor.
That's right, Gelding. Well, and I was tossing up whether to select Rheinberger, and you and I already had a discussion off air about that horse, and I think that is a definite threat to Charlton Lane. But when I look at the trainers, right, Mara Eustace, we do like that training combination. Yes. There must be a reason for putting Charlton Lane in this race, given it's been racing in Sydney. And I think they've probably set it for this race, and hopefully it'll win. Mark Zara, who we were talking about yesterday, Gelding, his ears would be red around the table. There were some thoughts passed about how well Mark Zara is going at the moment. Yes,
interesting.
And so he's in career form as well, Gelding. 12% over his total career, but 16% over his last 50. So, and Mar Eustace have got a 17% career rating, so I'll take that anytime. So my 2 bets today, and I'm pretty confident about them, Gelding. Race 1, horse 5, Bow Rap. Race 2, horse 2, Charlton Lane.
Well, you're setting me a task, Professor, to get down to this TAB early today, aren't you?
Oh, well, Gelding, you'll have plenty of energy after yesterday. We did have a fill up on the food, didn't we?
We did indeed. A very, very nice lunch.
Yes. All right, Gelding, the Professor's Parlay, and this was under great discussion yesterday. Unfortunately, we succumbed to the Premier League leg.
Oh, no, Professor.
Yes, Arsenal, who should have beaten Fulham, only managed to draw 2-2. So we got two out of the 3 legs. Hennessy Lad and Melbourne Storm we got up. Unfortunately, Premier League let us down. So you'll be pleased to know this week, Gelding, I've steered away from the Premier League.
Are we putting a ban on the Premier League, Professor, for you?
No, we're not putting a ban on it, Gelding. We will look at matches where we think that there's a very, 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 very good chance that we'll come away with a win.
Oh, Professor, we did all the hard work and got the horse league up. We both agreed on that. We did well. All of a sudden, just to go down in what was, and I think I did give a bit of a warning last week. Or
yes, you did.
Of holding, But look, the Professor Parlay's been on fire, as we were explaining yesterday, Professor. 8 out of the last 12 or something. But to lose after getting the horse league up and the first leg of the sports league up, and then to go down and hear that they should have won, the problem is they didn't.
Yes, Gelding.
And unfortunately, they don't pay out on should-haves, could-haves, or would-haves.
They don't pay out on leading 2-1 in the 85th minute either.
No.
And the problem was that Fulham scored in the 85th minute.
Yes.
So ta-da to the Professor's Parlay. But I'm back on track. I'm back on the NRL this weekend. So hopefully that will bear fruit for us, Gelding. All right. So the agreed bet of the day is at Randwick.
Yes, we're leaving Caulfield alone and heading up to Royal Randwick. And of course, Professor, we're following, I'll leave it to you, the Blue Army.
Yes, Gelding. We're following the Blue Army. Race 7, horse 5 in secret. And give us your thoughts on why we think that's the agreed bet of the day.
Professor, look, in secret, any filly that can win, a 3-year-old filly can win the Coolmore Stud Stakes against the Colts is very, very well. We're on it. It's coming back from a spell, Professor. This horse was in fine form. It's probably going to be Godolphin's horse for the Everest. It's up against Nature Strip Eduardo. I did notice they had Kalos in the race, but scratch that, which gives me a good leaning in secret. Look, I think she may become, with Giga Kick, they may become our 2 best sprinters this year, Professor. So there may be a handing over of the guard. Nature Strip's been fantastic for us and also for the listeners. But we like this 4-year-old mare on her way up, Professor. And Zach Lloyd, an apprentice who can't claim up in Sydney, is just riding on fire at the moment. And to be getting rides for places like Godolphin in group races, they must think he's got one hell of a future, Professor. So, look, going within secret, you can get round about the $3.20, Professor. So I just think it's a good bet. Should win, and we'll be putting my own on it. But we'll also see. We'll certainly should run a place.
All right, Gelding. And you mentioned Giga Kick there. That was also discussed around the table yesterday.
Oh, well, as we said, Professor, we all think it's the best sprinter in the land at the moment. May have taken over from Nature Strip, but yes, and I did note Darren from Hampton taking a very strong mental note of that.
All right, Gelding. Let's parlay in secret into the Penrith Panthers to beat the North Queensland Cowboys. Penrith Panthers currently second, but can go top and win the JJ Gilton and Shield if they beat the North Queensland Cowboys. They've got a couple of players out, probably with a view to next week and the finals, but with a plus 301 points difference, which is the best in the NRL, they're coming up against the North Queensland Cowboys, but Penrith at home, very difficult to beat.
Yep.
North Queensland 10th on the ladder. They need to win to make the 8, but the bookies currently show it at the line at 10.5. So I don't think the bookies think it's going to be all that close. And neither do I.
When you're getting 2 converted tries in, Professor.
Yes, exactly, Gelding. All right. And then we'll parlay that into the Cronulla Sharks, the boys from the Shire, to beat Canberra Raiders. Cronulla sixth and need to win to maintain the home final. Points differential of plus 104. That's very important when I come to talk about the Canberra Raiders, Gelding, because they're eighth and they need to win to stay in. If they lose, they'll definitely be out, I would think. Their points differential, Gelding, they're the only team in the 8 at the moment with a negative points differential. And it's not just a negative points differential, it's minus 119, Gelding.
Wow.
So on that points differential, they're really rated at 12th or 13th on the ladder. So the bookies think the same as with the Penrith Panthers and the North Queensland Cowboys. The line's 10.5, Gelding. Cronulla Sharks at home. The boys from the Shire to be too good for the Canberra Raiders. Beautiful,
Professor. I did have a sigh of relief when I heard that we're going the Horse League and then we're going the NRL. There was a good sigh of relief.
Now we must say, Gelding, and you mentioned it at yesterday's luncheon, that That's Racing is tipping at 75% over the last 2 weeks. What do punters usually tip at? What do punters usually think a good return percentage-wise would be for their tips?
Professor, if you're tipping 1 in 3, returning a win rate of 33.3%, like you're going one, you're normally doing very well and making a profit. So I think for the last 2 weeks, we've been 75% win rate, 75% place rate. Last week, the Fourth Horse St. Hubert just let us down a bit. Weekend ran 5th after being in a very good position the week before. I think we can easily say that a indifferent ride certainly cost us a place in there, which would have, of course, got some parlays up. But if you've been taking parlays 2, 3s and 4s, Professor, and you're getting 3 winners up, you're doing quite well. So
you are doing quite well, Gelding. All right. Well,
I would have thought that, yes, and that's probably why the expectation of a brown paper bag was there yesterday, because I think the boys have been, and I think I've converted a couple of them to parlays.
Well, Gelding, that old phrase, we live in hope.
We live in hope. And sometimes, Professor, you just got to say, oh, dear.
Now, Gelding, your comment before about the PB Lawrence Stakes, I did go and do a little bit of checking while we're on air. That was formerly the JJ Liston Stakes, which is a time-honoured race.
Yes. And used to be run at Sandown, Professor.
Where?
Sandown.
Oh, and that was another topic of discussion. Geez, we spent a lot of time talking racing yesterday, didn't we, Gelding?
We did indeed, and we managed still to get some Chinese in our mouths.
Oh, no, it was most enjoyable, Gelding, most enjoyable. Well, because it's Father's Day, Gelding, there's no Sportsfan Radio tomorrow, but Sportsfan Radio will be back next Sunday. But because it's Father's Day, we thought we'd have the day off, and so that the fathers can spend time with their children. So
yes, Professor will be going down the highway.
Yeah, I figured that, Gelding.
And you?
I think the children are coming here, so that's good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So now, Gelding, I wish you a very happy Father's Day for tomorrow, and all the fathers out there who follow That's Racing. And until next Saturday at 10 o'clock, it's good luck.
And good punting.